One of the greatest captains in the history of Starfleet, Jean-Luc Picard served aboard the Federation flagship USS Enterprise D from 2363 to 2371, making a name for himself as an exceptional diplomat, strategist, warrior, and commander, exploring new worlds and civilizations to boldly go where no one has gone before. Yet among the many challenges, mysteries, and adventures he faced, some few stood out for the profound impact they had on his life, expanding his mind and perspective to ideas and possibilities never before considered. Such was the case in 2368, on stardate 45944.1. During an event remembered as the Inner Light, when the Enterprise D encountered an unidentified probe drifting through space, which fired a low-level nucleonic beam that rendered the captain unconscious. Picard then awoke to a woman named Eileen, who called him Kamin and claimed to be his wife. Unsure what was happening, Picard first believed he might be on the holodeck before asking if he was a prisoner. As neither option seemed correct, Picard left their home and found the townsfolk gathering for a tree planting ceremony they called an affirmation of life, with each of them donating a share of water rations in defiance of the drought threatening their civilization. After speaking to Batai, the local council leader who appeared to be his best friend, Picard learned this was the community of Resik in the northern province upon the planet Kataan. Determined to find answers, Picard explored the area beyond the town and eventually returned home to his supposed wife, where they discussed his life as Kamin, learning they'd been married for 3 years, and he was an iron weaver who enjoyed playing the flute. He then noticed his wife wearing a necklace with a figure in the exact shape of the probe he encountered on the Enterprise, which she claimed was the first gift he ever gave her. Back on the ship, Picard remained in a coma under the care of Dr. Beverly Crusher, whose initial examination revealed high neurotransmitter levels and neurological activity. Unsure how to proceed, Worf, the ship's chief tactical officer, advised destroying the probe, but Dr. Crusher warned against it, as they did not know enough information about what was happening. In agreement with the doctor, William Riker, the first officer, now serving as acting captain, ordered to stand down phasers. Although only a few minutes had passed on the Enterprise, 5 years had gone by for Picard as Kamin, during which time he adapted to life on Kataan, even speaking to a government administrator about building atmospheric condensers to combat the ongoing drought ravaging their world. And while the administrator did not seem interested in the idea, Batai was happy to see his friend taking a more active role in their community. Later that night, Picard apologized to his wife for spending so many years fixated on returning to the Enterprise, and explained he was at last ready to let go of the past. After so much time together, Picard had developed genuine feelings for Eileen, and so asked permission to build a nursery so they could start having children. Meanwhile, the Enterprise crew investigated their options, as Chief Engineer Geordi LaForge hoped to find answers by following the probe's radioactive trail back to its source, while Lieutenant Commander Data sought a way to disrupt the beam and sever its tie to the captain. Not satisfied they had enough information to act, Dr. Crusher argued against Data's plan, citing the example that when a patient was stabbed, it was not always advisable to immediately pull out the knife. But this time Riker did not heed her advice and ordered Data to disrupt the beam. On Kataan, Eileen was thrilled to have her husband back, and over the next few years gave birth to a girl Maribor, and boy Batai, named after Kamin's best friend who passed away some time earlier. During his son's naming ceremony, Picard played the flute for their guests, and when speaking to his wife, confessed he once thought he did not need children, yet now could not imagine life without them. But just after they shared this moment of happiness, Picard collapsed onto the ground, suffering some auto-physical failure as a result of Data disrupting the probe's beam upon the Enterprise. However, the captain stabilized after the crew realized the danger and allowed the link to re-establish. As all this occurred, over a decade passed for Picard as Kamin, who proudly watched his adult daughter work as a scientist studying the soil of their world, which had been sterilized by the sun's radiation, preventing them from producing crops. Fearful about how much longer the planet could sustain the population, Maribor believed she should marry her romantic partner Denik relatively soon, and her father agreed, suggesting she should live her life to the fullest while she could, making now the most important time as it would never come again. On the Enterprise, Riker grew frustrated after failing to save Picard. However, Geordi LaForge continued to track the probe's radiation trail, which led them to the Kataan system, where they found no habitable worlds as the sun went supernova 1,000 years earlier. As time continued to pass on Kataan, Picard became an important figure in their community, serving on the local government council in his elder years, while saddened by the knowledge their world was ultimately doomed. Even so, he hoped his children might lead the best lives possible in the time they had remaining, and so was outraged when his son Batai claimed he was leaving school to focus on music. Although Picard did not agree with the decision, he ultimately relented. Ever eager to present his research about the planet's worsening condition, the government administrator finally admitted their own scientists came to the same conclusion, but there was little to be done, as they were only starting to send missiles into space and did not have the technology to facilitate an evacuation of their world. Nonetheless, the administrator assured Picard the government had a plan to preserve at least some part of their legacy, but for now that was all he could say. Kamin was then alerted by his son Batai that Aline was ill, and so he rushed to her side only to find her bedridden and dying. After hearing her final words, he watched her eyes close for the last time and broke down in tears over the loss of his beloved wife. Though the death of Aline pained him greatly, Picard found joy in the years that followed through his children and grandson Kamin, the son of Maribor, but felt increasingly guilty the boy would not live a full life of happiness given the environmental conditions of the planet. It was while playing with his grandson that his son Batai announced it was time for the launching ceremony, which confused Picard, who asked what he was talking about. To his surprise, Maribor stated he already knew about it and had even seen it, which was then confirmed by his best friend Batai, who suddenly reappeared from the dead, as did his wife Aline, seeing all his loved ones gathered together once more. Astonished, Picard learned his entire life as Kamin had been a simulation imposed by the probe he encountered on the Enterprise all those years earlier. The entire experience was designed as a means to preserve the memory of their civilization by granting a selected individual a unique and impactful glimpse into their culture and society. Finally understanding what happened to him, Picard regained consciousness on the Enterprise, where he learned only 20 to 25 minutes had passed on the ship, while he in turn experienced a lifetime of memories. Though the crew brought the probe aboard, it had already shut down, and all they found inside was a box with the Resican flute Picard played during his years as Kamin. Left alone to reflect on all that happened, Picard picked up the flute and played the song he performed during his son's naming ceremony. Deeply moved and affected by the enormity of what occurred, this experience became a pivotal moment in the captain's life, keeping the flute as one of his most treasured possessions. He even continued to play from time to time, like when he composed the Picard-Mozart Trio, Program 1, in which he played alongside an oboe and cello. Keeping the flute on the desk of his ready room during his years on the Enterprise E, it eventually went to his family home at Chateau Picard in France. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Tamika the Black Wolf, Sir Xavier, Defender of the Flame, Ishmael Ahmed of Shamiriana, and Admiral Flint. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.